Hey, Goddess Globetrotters, it's Tosh here, founder and CEO of Travel Goddess International. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Travel Chats. Today's segment is all about traveling the globe efficiently and effectively. And I am thrilled to sit down with the travel tourist, Miss Alea Simone. Welcome,
Hi,
Alea.
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited for you to share, and I'm going to jump right into my first question. So tell us a little bit more about the travel tourist. Why the travel tourist? For those that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, take a moment and let us get to know you a little bit.
Well, it definitely did take me a while to pick out that name for the brand. Um, but I guess for me, I've always been like a very like zodiac oriented type of person. So I thought the travel tourist was like a good fit for myself. Definitely, if you read anything about Tauruses, that's like pretty much me to a T. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there like that. So I know a lot of my community is definitely filled with a ton of Tauruses. We definitely see the world in a certain type of way, but yeah. So I changed my, everyone does that whole, I'm going to change my Instagram. So that was me changing my whole Instagram to that. And since then, I've built like a pretty good, very nice community of fellow travelers. So yeah, I've been doing like pretty much mostly international travel for the past like year and a half or so. But yeah, and actually, I quit my job, my full-time job back about a year ago, last April.
Awesome.
And I went and I traveled the globe pretty much. I spent 2 months in Europe and 2 months in Asia last summer. And thankfully I did it last summer, and I was not
Right.
trying to do it this summer because I almost did it. I was gonna like wait, you're like, I don't know if I should do it. I was like, literally, I was like, maybe I should wait 10 months. I'm so happy I did not wait 10 months. And I
Right.
just went and do it. So so yeah, that's basically my little story.
So I'll share. I feel like I don't want to call it a secret, but I specifically didn't tell you this until we sat down. But I
Hmm.
found you because I'm a Taurus. My birthday
See?
is May 7th, right? So I'm often, like you said, looking and searching for the word Taurus on the internet and social media, because as you mentioned, those individuals we are just a different type of people, especially
Yes.
when it comes to traveling. So I 100% agree with you there. We see the world in a different way. We attack our destinations differently, and it's a different type of vibe. So I was really excited when I came across your Instagram and exploring your blog and your content, because I was like, yep, yes.
See, that's wonderful. And then like when tourists see it, they're like, yes.
Yeah,
Like, we're heard. I'm like, come,
yes.
join me.
Spot on, spot on. Um, awesome. So you touched a little bit about your transition into a travel content creator. But how did you really come to being that? What was that moment or aha moment that inspired you to say, I'm gonna go all in and work in this field?
Well, I know, I want to say maybe like back in, I want to say like the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I started getting like deep into like watching YouTube and watching all these people travel and like finding all these things on Instagram, about all this big travel community that's out there. And I was like, wow, wait a second. So people are actually making money doing this, and and then when I started like doing more research, I found that a lot of these people, when they even started, they didn't have a lot of money, and they wanted to go travel. And to be honest, I just wanted to go and travel. I wasn't really thinking about writing or like doing or like making a website or like doing any of that. I just wanted to go,
Mm,
because I saw things, I thought it was cool and I wanted to go check it out. And so after I went and I traveled and I did that, of course, I'm taking photos and videos and like documenting things and meeting people along the way. And then by the time I got back, because I was gone for so long. By the time I got back, I looked back and I had all of this stuff. I
Mm.
had, not only did I have all these photos, I had all these videos, I knew all this information, and I knew how to do things, and I became very travel savvy about certain things. And you learn a lot of stuff traveling alone, which I traveled alone. And it was the first time I ever traveled alone.
Mm.
Is when I left, which is
Wow.
really kind of crazy. I've never traveled alone before. And then I just went and left for 4 months, and did it all by myself, so I learned like a lot of things. So I was like, dang, I guess I could start writing about it now. And like writing has always been a strong point for me anyways, ever since like I was in school. So I mean, it's not really an issue for me. So I'm like, well, I have all these photos already, I have all this information. I could just write it down. So then it really just started on Instagram and me just like posting things. And then I started thinking to myself, well, you can only put so much on Instagram. I need like somewhere where I can actually write longer things. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, well, let me start a website. So that's kind of how that started. But
Well,
yeah, so that's what I have been doing now. And that's how all of that started. It just kind of like came upon it. And the other thing too is like when I got back, I was like, I don't really want to go back to the office. Like that's kind of like the reason why I left.
mhm.
Um, I'm more of like a creative and very like free spirited type of person. I just kind of like to do things on my own pace. I like to be on my own. I'm like very independent. So yeah, I never really saw myself going back to the office anyway. So I needed to figure something else out. But yeah, so that's pretty much, how all of that happened.
It's so interesting listening to your story and realizing that we share a very similar path. I'm actually coming up on my 1 year anniversary, if you will, of quitting my full-time job and going full-time with Travel Goddess International, and very much for the same reasons. I mean, I was working in the tourism hospitality industry, so I had the flexibility of my work days, meaning, because I'm working for a hotel or because I'm working for an attraction, they're open 7 days a week and, 24/7. So therefore, if I decided to take a Saturday to Tuesday little getaway, then okay, that's cool. I'm just going to make up my 5 days on the following weekend type of thing. So because of that, I was traveling quite often, and I was realizing more and more that this is the life I want to live, and how do I make this like my reality? And like you said, at one point you just say to yourself, yeah, I don't want to come back to this. I want to do what
Mm-mm.
it is that I feel in my spirit is right for me, and that is seeing the globe and sharing it with other people. And I love that.
Yeah. And I want to be happy about things that I'm doing and the work that I'm
Exactly.
doing. Because I've been working for like 10 years and I was just like looking at the other people who have been working there longer than me. And I was just like, they don't look very happy. I was like, I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be 40 and regretting, like, I got to get up. I got to get out of here. I got to go see the world. I need to go like meet some other people. I need to like learn some other things. And when you meet people from those other countries and you talk to them, like they really be putting you on game about stuff,
Yes,
and you find out how messed up things really are, and how good people have it in other places, and it's just crazy.
it is. Which I think is like a perfect segue into my next question, because as we were talking about how fulfilled you and I and people like you and I are when we're traveling and when we're having those experiences that are outside of our quote unquote norm, it changes like the dynamic of our everyday. And
Yeah.
obviously right now, that is a little bit more or a little bit less of a thing, I should say. So let's kind of talk about the elephant in the world of travel. COVID-19. I mean, this pandemic has really put a pause on everyone's life. So how do you think it will affect the future of travel? And maybe how are you using this time to pivot yourself and grow from the experience, considering we haven't been able to travel as frequently?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, I'll talk about myself first. So for like me personally, I probably like I have been traveling for like such a long time. Like even like before last year, I kind of really started doing most of my travel probably in like 2018, but like on like a monthly basis, like I was always traveling, like going somewhere. And then after, just traveling monthly, then I just eventually just left, and I traveled for like 4 months. And you get really you get really tired traveling and just like going from place to place to place. And it's cool, it's great, it's very fun, but it's also it can be very challenging and like tiring mentally and physically and things like that. More like mentally and physically, but I wouldn't say emotionally, but definitely mentally and physically
Yeah.
very challenging. So I definitely probably needed this time anyways to just sit down and just chill, because I was always like on the go, always doing stuff. Even when I wasn't traveling, like I was always working, like I was working 2 jobs, and then I was like very active and like having a social life, and was always out with my friends, always out on a date. Like I was always doing something. So I probably need to just sit down. Okay. I probably did just need to sit down. So like now that I am like just being able to sit down, I'm able to like do some things like, work on my website, because as much as, having a website is cool and like writing is nice, but you actually have to sit down and do those things. And you can't be running around all the time, and being able and thinking you're gonna be able to do that too. So I've definitely been able to sit down and like, get some things organized, like hire someone to make me a logo and, start my website and, like organize things like how do I want to present my content, and what idea and brainstorming ideas of things to do. And just like planning travel and things like that too. I'm kind of getting back into like planning travel, because before I hadn't even looked at Google Flights forever, and I just started looking back on there.
Right.
But yeah, but that's just for me. Oh yeah, and then also I'm getting ready to finish my graduate program. I've been in school this entire time.
Wow.
Yeah, since I was in school working, and then when I went traveling, I was still in school while I was traveling, because my school's online. And so that was another thing I needed to sit down and finish, is my graduate program. So I should be done with that probably within the next like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So that'll be good too. But yeah, just getting business handled, things I should be doing, but I wasn't, because I was too busy jumping around everywhere, But yeah, so that's just for me. And as far as like the world of travel, I feel like long term, I don't think things are going to change that much. Short term, I think a couple of things are going to change. Like I think in a couple, I think about like the end of next year. Things are probably going to be back to normal. I think they'll probably, once they have like a vaccine, they may require people to get a vaccine if you're coming or going from certain areas. But they were doing that anyways, So I don't think it's really going to change that much. And I think just for now, while people are still trying to, because these companies, they're businesses, they're got to make money. So they're just trying to make money, which is why they're doing the whole trying to social distance, or offering their customers extra things. It's really just about trying to make people feel comfortable enough to spend their money. Yeah. I study business, and I get it. I understand, but most people don't. Like, they're like, oh, you guys don't care about they care about the customer to the effect that the customer is the person who is giving the money. So yes, they care about money in the form of the customer. So that's the things like you have to think about. So I think short term, we're just going to try to keep people comfortable. And then I think long term, things are just going to go back to normal. So that's honestly what I think about that.
And I share similar logic in that. And I, like you said, it's kind of just like paying attention to who's making the adjustments and caring about the overall experience, but still understanding that we are still traveling and we still need you. So please come, please join us, please feel comfortable, but please come. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and whether or not these things work or not, I don't know.
Right.
You
Right.
know, but I think they're just trying to make people feel comfortable enough to come and spend their money. Like, you know, the Emirates, I'm sure you heard about them with
Mhm.
their COVID insurance.
Yes. And then I
They're
even
just trying
said,
to make people feel comfortable because they said they lost like 90% of their passengers.
mhm, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I would be trying to offer some COVID insurance too.
Hmm.
You're trying to get people on these expensive Emirates flights. That's a nice airline. We're
But
not
it's
talking about
true.
Spirit.
I mean, they've been consistent with the deals, so you know you can't go wrong with
All
their
right,
$3 flight.
$11 flight, $11 flight. So somebody else, I was like, $11 flight. I was like, delete. I'm not even gonna click on that. I do not want
Delete.
to be on an $11 flight. Now,
I love it.
$20 flight, I'll consider, but not an $11 one
I
because
love it.
something doesn't seem right about that.
Well, that's actually another perfect segue into today's topic because it's super, super important to, you know, when you're traveling I, to enjoy yourself, but be budget conscious, especially if you're going to be traveling for a longer period of time. You mentioned you were gone for 4 months, so I can only imagine how you prepared and being like, I'm not going to bring my whole life on this trip because A,
Yeah,
I just
because I
can't.
can't fit it
Yes, I
anywhere.
can't. And B, I need to be aware of how I'm going to maneuver from, you know, city to city, country to country. So with that being said, we'll jump right into our topic for today. With Alea, it's going to share with us 5 tips on traveling the world with just a carry-on.
Yes, 5 tips. And I wrote them down actually. I was like, yeah, that's it. I was like, that sounds like a good idea of something interesting to talk about. I was like, let me jot down these 5 tips real quick. Okay, so yeah, first one for sure. It's very, very important when you start traveling is picking the right suitcase. Okay. So like my 3 tips on picking the right suitcase would definitely be to get something that has a hard cover,
Mm.
because you never know where you're going to end up going. Like you could be, you know, going down cobblestone roads. You could have to check your luggage. You may be putting it on an overhead bin. Your luggage could be on a boat. It could be on top of a van. It could be anywhere. Like you never really know. It could be in the water. Like you don't know. So you could be walking in the rain. So like you don't want to get something that has like any type of material because it could get wet, you
Mm.
know. And so hardcovers are just easy to clean and it just protects your stuff better. You don't have to worry about it ripping or tearing or anything like that. So definitely that. The second thing you should look for in a good suitcase is one with 4 wheels.
Mm.
You know what I'm talking about because
Yes.
that is a game changer.
Yes.
The 4 wheels. You need the 4 wheels. It can spin around the circle. You can just walk with it, and you don't have to, you know, like your back and your shoulders will like thank you. So that is definitely my second tip for choosing a good suitcase. And third tip for that is getting one with a built-in lock. You want to get one with a built-in lock
Mm.
because you don't know where you're going. And I don't care if you guys are like, whether you're staying in a hostel or you're staying in a hotel, you need to be locking your stuff up, you know, and no one's really going to go through your suitcase like that, you know, if it's already locked. But
Mhm.
if it's not locked, you know, so if it's not locked, you never know. And also, even when you're on the airplane too, because I've heard of people getting their stuff stolen on the airplane, like when you put your stuff in the overhead bin, like people will go through, open up, you know, people do that all the time. You don't know what they're doing. They could be digging through your stuff. So always get that locked up.
Mm.
Everything needs to have a lock on it. Let's see. And then my second tip is buying packing cubes. Packing cubes are great for
Mm.
packing. You can roll your clothes up in there. It saves a lot of space, keeps everything nice and compact, and you can squeeze a lot of stuff in there. Um, and they're cheap. You can get like a whole case for like, I think like different sizes for like $20 off Amazon, I think is where I got mine. The packing cubes are great. So that would be my second tip. And then the third tip, of course, packing the clothes. All right, so men, I'm not even gonna talk about that because they already know how to pack efficiently. Like all the guys that I travel with or see traveling, they're all like, "Oh yeah, I travel with a backpack." I'm like, "Okay, now you're just doing too much." But like, so it's women. We're the ones that really need the advice on packing. So let me just do it from a woman's perspective. Okay, for clothes, this is what you do: get yourself some nice sets. Get you some sets that match each other, so you can mix and match. You know, or get a lot of basics. I really like little tube tops like these are like really good, different colors. And then like biker shorts are always great too, because then you can like switch them, you know. So definitely like a lot of like smaller tops if you're going somewhere warm. Obviously bikinis don't take up a lot of space. Dresses are great because it's a whole outfit right there, you know, and you can roll them up and they're usually pretty small to carry along with you. Basically just get things. I would say bring like 2 dresses, and then everything else, just make sure you're picking out things that match each other. So then you have a lot of options. Everything pretty much matches each other. You know, just mix and match every day, and it's fine. I did that for a whole like 3.5 months, and I was all on Instagram. People were liking all my photos. It was fine. You know, you don't have to be Vogue if you're traveling. You know, you don't have to do that. um, yeah. Oh, and I'll only bring 2 pair of shoes. 2 pair of shoes. Okay, pair of sandals and a pair of sneakers. All right. If you don't feel comfortable with the way your feet are looking, just don't take photos from that far down. The end. You know, like, but you don't need to bring like a lot of pair of shoes with you. So that's about the clothes. Um, and then, oh yeah, number 4 would be don't worry about the toiletries, because you're going to run out. You're going to have to buy new things. If you are traveling, if you're trying to travel the world, you're going to be gone for a while. So you're not going to be able, there's nothing that you can bring with you that you're not going to run out of toiletry wise. So keep it to a minimum, travel size only, and then just re-up when you can. Okay, it's gonna be okay. Like, and that's all I have to say about that. And then also, last one will be leave extra space in your suitcase, because you're gonna want to buy stuff when you're gone. You're gonna want to bring stuff back. I mean, you're not gonna be able to fit a lot in there, but you need to leave some space because you're gonna want to bring something back. So those would be my 5 tips.
I just want you to know, those tips were amazing. And I'm not just saying that because you're you. I'm saying it because literally, I wish I had you a few months back when I was doing my 5-week trip across Europe, because I'll tell you, and my boyfriend will probably laugh when he listens to this, I completely overpacked, like completely. I had the carry-on and the full-size suitcase. So I had my personal bag in addition to everything. So I'm carrying all this stuff. It was so ridiculous. I got about 4 days into the trip and I was like, I got to downsize. And I put everything in the carry-on that I could, and I sent the big suitcase home. Like, paid for it, shipped it home. It was not cheap, but it needed to go because I was
Yes. It is serious, and the thing is, like there is something that as like Americans do not understand. As I need to tell people about Europe, they have cobblestone roads.
Yes.
Right, these cobblestones are a problem. Okay, it is very hard to drag a suitcase down a cobblestone road, even with the little carry-on. Like it's still like I went to Europe for a couple of weeks back in February with my friends, and I was struggling with my little suitcase, and I had a coat on and like all this stuff. I was sweating
Right.
in February in the winter in Europe. My suitcase dragging it on these cobblestone roads, like these, because we're not used to cobblestones. I'm not used to. We don't have those in Texas. Like we don't have cobblestones in Texas, and it hurts your feet too. So like
it's a lot of extra work, and
that's why you can't have those big suitcases. You just can't. Unless you're going somewhere and that's where you're gonna be at, and you don't plan on like going anywhere, that's fine. But if you're actually gonna be like getting on any like type of transportation, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I was doing all of that, like all of that. I was on the
I don't blame you for
transportation,
sending it home.
on the bus, on the plane, and I literally only got through two countries before I was like, no.
Before you were like, I can't do it anymore.
And a large part was due to the cobblestone.
You didn't even say that, and I already said something about
Even
it.
with the 4 style wheels,
It's still hard.
it was horrible. So yes, so your tips made perfect sense, and I was like listening to them going, she's so right, I went through this, she's so right.
Mm-hmm. And you can even do it in the winter too. I would say like winter is like a little bit more difficult because you do have to have like warm things which take up a little bit more space. But I went to Europe in the winter just back in February, and I had my suitcase, my little travel on or carry on suitcase with me, and it was fine. I fit everything in there. Got not like lots of nice photos are all on Instagram.
Well, that's a perfect segue because I know that you have talked about your different adventures, you've different people you've met, and of course, all the different places that you've visited. So I know that you have a good story that you could share. So
I
what's
do, yes.
the craziest travel story that you want to tell us? You can use discretion, but you have to make it entertaining.
Okay, all right. Here, I got one for you guys. And it's funny because like I forgot about this story. I'm like, man, I need to make a post about that. Every Thursday I do a travel story on
Yes.
my Instagram. So I'm like, I haven't put this one on there. So this is you guys getting to know about this travel story first. So I was in Cambodia, and I had met these girls at the hostel I was staying at, and like one of the girls was black, so I was like, "Hey, girl," like I got real friendly with her. Like me and her started hanging out. So it was her and this other girl, and they're both American too, but they were teachers and they taught in China. I don't know why I told y'all that. That's just their information, I guess. One girl was black,
Make the story.
right, and she had, and so like and one of the girls, she's actually, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. One of the girls, she's from Bermuda. She's the black girl. She was from Bermuda, and but she taught in China or whatever. And her hair was, she had braids, like the freestyle braid, not freestyle, but box braids. That's what they're called. She had box braids, right? And my hair at the time, I had, I don't know, what do they call those braids? The ones that are like, cornrows here and then they're like kind of down.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're like red. They're like red. They're like red at the bottom and stuff.
I don't know what they're
So
called.
I forget what they're.
I know with the stylist.
Vanilla braids, or I don't know what they're. I forget what they're called. I don't know because I don't get braids, so I never know what they're called. I never know the actual term. But so all right, we did not have the same style of braids, but we had braids. Okay, and the other girl, she was white, so normal.
There's that.
So we're at the hostel and they're like, hey, they're trying to sell us these tours. They're like, hey, we're doing this tour and you go on we take you to this floating village. And we were like, a floating village? And they're like, yeah, there's a whole village of people and they live in the water. I'm like, what? This is crazy. I was like, we should go check this out. So they were like, oh yeah, you should really go. So we go, right? And the whole thing was just it was just, we ended up having to get our money back at the end. So let me just say that. So I mean, it wasn't much. It was like $21 because like everything is cheap, but still we would get our money back. So we go on the tour. They take you on these boats and you go down this little narrow waterway. It's very small. The water you can't see at the bottom. It's like muddy, dirty water. It's gross. You don't want to touch it. So you go in, they take us down. We're looking, we go past this school, this floating school, and we see these kids and they're waving, very cute. Beautiful brown people over there in Cambodia. And they take us to this lady's house that lives out there. And I guess they have some arrangement where she goes and I guess we can look around her home and she tells us about her home that's floating. Very interesting. So my friends that I'm with, they're a little heavier. I mean, they're a little larger than me, I guess. A little plus size, and beautiful plus size ladies. You know what I'm saying? So we get off the boat. We're getting off the boat to go on to where her house is, And the lady asked our tour guide something, but in their language, we didn't know what she was saying. And so we go inside. She had made like a joke, I guess. They go inside, and the guy that is our guide asked them, saying that the lady wanted to know how much they weighed.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So you want to know how much they weighed. So first off, we were like, wait, what? So one of my friends gave him a little smart answer, which he deserved. Okay, which was not even an answer at all. Furthermore, we we're in there talking, to the lady. He's translating, of course, and he said something about, or I think it was her that asked, or him, but asked if me and the other girl who was Black, if we were sisters. And we were just like, why do you think we're sisters? You didn't ask them, the other two white people that's with us, you didn't ask them if they were related. So that was just like really weird. We're like, why would you assume we're sisters? He was like, because you guys have the same hair.
It makes sense while you were describing the hairstyles now.
Yeah. He's like, I have the same hair. And you're like, okay. So we just like ignored that. So then we leave. We get back on the boat. The sun's going down. We're going back to wherever we got dropped off at. And I had forgot to mention this. The first boat that we had got on when we were going to the village, we all boarded the boat, and the boat had a hole in it, girl. Like water was coming through the boat. So we had to get off the boat and wait for a new boat. So we got a new boat and then left or whatever. So we're coming back on our boat, all right? And we're going down the narrow path with the water. It's pretty shallow too. Our boat gets stuck in the mud. Our boat gets stuck in the mud, and we're like, okay, like, what are we gonna do? And the guy's trying to get the engine, and it's not going. The sun is going down.
Oh no.
We in Cambodia, girl. There's no lights around here. So, he's like, okay, everybody get off the boat. So we get off the boat, and we're like in the mud.
Oh my God.
So he pushes the boat out, gets it to go. We all get back on the boat. We go a little bit further. It gets stuck again. This time, the sun is down. Like, the sun is down. It's dark. You cannot see anything. And so now he's like, okay, well, we all have to get off the boat. But the thing is, we're not next to the bank. If you get off the boat, you got to go in the water.
Oh my
to get
God.
to the side so me and my friend were like, we don't want to get in the water. I was like, I don't know what's in this water.
It's dark.
We were like, we're not trying to get no fungus out here. My friend was like, I got a cut on my toe.
Oh no.
She was like, I don't want to do this. He's like, I don't want to get in the water. He's like, well, y'all have to. He's like, well, if you guys are gonna stay here or whatever. So like, we literally had to like get in this muddy water and walk. We had to walk at least like 5 to 10 minutes down the bank in pitch black,
Oh my God.
barefoot. Yes, because we had walked into, we had to pick our shoes up like this, and girl, when we finally, and then we had to get back. We had to pour water on our feet. I was like, y'all got some water, because I can't just be having this. I got to clean my feet off before, So, and then we got back. Well, finally got back to, it was like a very long ride back as well. It was very long.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so pissed. It was so funny because on the way there in the van, we were all happy and chatting. On the way back, when nobody was saying nothing, quiet, like quiet. We were pissed. Like, we were all so mad. We got back. I didn't even say anything. I was like, girl, we need a refund. Like, I was like, I want a refund. And so, because they were just gonna complain, I was like, no, they need to give us refunds. So, when we got back to the hostel, they went and complained, because he made that little joke, and then he was saying some stuff about us it was just too many things that went wrong. Then they had us stuck in the mud. I was like, if they knew the water was shallow, they should not have been taking people out on these boats. I was like, no. That was like the worst tour I've ever been on in my entire life. At least we got our money back. we went upstairs, showered, and went on about our life, went partying that night or whatever. But that was like the worst tour I've ever been on.
I was like, oh my goodness. I swear, it's like, I'm not laughing at your pain. I'm just laughing at the fact that that is like wild. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, y'all need to talk to him. Because we're like, he don't need to be if you know somebody is saying something inappropriate, don't translate that. Keep it to yourself. Like, you didn't have to translate that. You did not have to translate that at all.
Oh my gosh. Alea, you are awesome. Like I look forward to us connecting more because you are a good time down there in Texas. I love it.
Got to.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Before we get out of here, please let our audience know where they can keep up with you, your projects, and of course your travels.
Oh, absolutely. So you guys can find me on Instagram at the Travel Taurus, just like the zodiac sign, the Travel Taurus. And then my website is just like that, thetraveltaurus.com. Very simple. So that's where you can find me. Oh yeah, if you're on Pinterest, also right there too, the Travel Taurus on Pinterest. Um, I'm trying to think, do I have anything else where I'm at the Travel Tourist on Twitter?
Yeah.
The Travel Tourist. I don't post there, but you can go on there and find me.
I will definitely say
but yeah.
your Instagram is a good time, and your website has a lot of great information. So I would encourage all of my Goddess Globetrotters out there to be sure to catch up with Alea via her platforms and get some great information as you start to prepare for your travels the end of this year and of course next year. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, girl, that's it. I mean, there's always things to say about travel, but I think I've said enough for today.
We'll definitely be seeing Alea again. And community, thanks so much for rocking with us. Until next time.
Bye. Thank you.